Panther people, what up? Bryce Young needs some weapons, so let's go shopping. Panthers spokesman Phil Perkins, thanks for joining us. Well, if you haven't seen my video already about free agent Carolina Panthers, who we keeping, who we letting go, make sure you check that one out and also spread the word, like and subscribe and all that business. But let's get right down to business. We got a brand new front office. We got Brant Tillis, who is a cap genius. Have you seen the size of that man's head? Is gigantic. He's just always thinking. And you got Dan Morgan, who is the DAWG, who wants all those things. And then you got Dave Canales, Mr. PKL 2.0, Mr. Enthusiastic, Mr. I don't know if he's on MDMA, but he acts like he's on MDMA, but in a good way. To make things better for Bryce Young, you need weapons. Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown. Got to keep you watching, baby. Marquise Brown. So we already got, we in the wide receiver room right now, we got Amir Smith-Marset, who's 6'1", 185, lean and mean. And then you got Jonathan Mingo, who is a bit larger, jacked, kind of like a mini DK Metcalf. And then you got a Marquise Brown, who's also a burner at 5'9", 180 pounds. So you got a somewhat undersized wide receiver core. We haven't entered the draft yet, so we're just talking actual NFL players right now. You know, there's still guys in the NFL draft that you can 100% pick out, whether it's AJ Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, Troy Franklin, guys who are a bit taller, except Troy Franklin, he's a bit lean and mean. But Marquise Brown, he's had some injuries, some pretty solid numbers. I think that he could be somebody that can help Bryce Young a lot. I don't think he'll be as expensive as someone like a T. Higgins or a Mike Evans. I think he is an option. So in my head, I'm just thinking kind of like a basketball team, and that's going to be the theme throughout this entire episode. Just taking a look at what we got, because as I mentioned in other videos, the wide receivers in the Carolina Panthers wide receiver room, they all just kind of had the same powers. They all kind of did the same thing. And so you need something a little bit different that could strike fear in the defense. So I think Marquise Brown could be somebody that that could work. I think he still has that home run ability, like of Amir Smith-Marset. Jonathan Mingo could offer that big body possession type receiver. I think he could work out with Marquise Brown. And again, you're not paying a premium for him because I don't think we're at that moment yet. I don't think he is that talent that you pay all that marquee money to. Now, there's some other guys we're going to talk about who maybe you do spend a lot of money with. We hired Dave Canales as the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. One thing they talked about was how he coaches quarterbacks, how he rejuvenates quarterbacks, Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield. But what made Baker Mayfield so great was also the weapons around him as well. You know, he had Chris Godwin, and he had this man right here, Mike Evans, who was 30-plus years old. But, man, he was absolutely wild this year. 1,000-yard, okay, what did he have? 83.9 receiving grade with double-digit touchdowns for the third time in 4 years is wild for this man. And so, is he a guy who has spoken highly about Dave Canales? Is he a guy who's willing to leave a team that he won a championship with, a quarterback that helped him explode offensively as he did with Baker Mayfield, but the guy calling the plays is no longer there anymore. He is with the Carolina Panthers. Would he want to take that step up a little bit in terms of geography and go with the Panthers, a team that has his cap genius? That's going to be the key here in Brant Tillis, who could pay him an extraordinary amount of money within the cap and still leave room for your draft picks and then your free agent offensive lineman and all that stuff. And Brian Burns. Is that something that can happen? It'd be pretty cool, but he does seem like a guy who might want his legacy to stay in Tampa. I think he does it if they're chasing rings. I think if he does it, if he wants to join the Chiefs or wants to join the Bills. I could see him. I'd love to see him in the Panthers. I just don't see it happening. We love to talk about relationships with he and Dave Canales, but I think if anything, most likely the situation is he stays in Tampa. Something else I could see him doing is going somewhere like a Buffalo. Speaking of Buffalo, there's a guy on that team who I think could be a better, more productive version of a DJ Chark, and that is Gabe Davis. Big game Gabe Davis. I think he is a more clutch player than DJ Chark. He has shown it in the biggest stage, maybe not the Super Bowl, but there are moments where all eyes are on Stephon Diggs with the Buffalo Bills, and then that's when Gabe Davis just kind of takes over. And I think Gabe Davis could be somebody who you can get, again, for cheap. I think you can get him for cheap. Where we got him at? He's 6'3", he's that difference. He has that different type of receiver size. He's like a Mike Evans. He's like Mike Evans light. Obviously not Hall of Famer like Mike Evans and all that stuff, but he offers that different physicality. You have to respect it. And I think he is more clutch than a DJ Chark. Someone was a bit of fool's gold here for us. And so I think Gabe Davis could be somebody. Him and Marquise Brown, these are two guys who I think the Panthers could get at a reasonable price, and then and couple with a Jonathan Mingo, Amir Smith-Marset, and maybe one or two wide receiver draft pick. Let's say it's Adonai Mitchell out of Texas and Lad McConkey or some. Oh, who knows? I don't know. In my mind, I would love. It's not a draft episode. I would love to trade down and then get double down on two wide receivers. Boom, boom. I would love to do that. It'd be a bit emotional. We let his boy go in DJ Moore to the Chicago Bears. Why not bring Curtis Samuel home? Bring him back. He's not in a point of his life where he wants to win a ring right now, because it's not like he was like the best player with the Washington Commanders and everyone kind of felt bad for him. Like, man, go get that ring. Go get that ring, Odell. It's kind of like Odell, right? I think he could be a good addition for the team. I don't think you have to pay him a whole heck of a lot. I think he'd be, as I said, Gabe Davis would be a better version of DJ Chark. I think Curtis Samuel would be a better version of a Laviska Shenault, where he could be everywhere. That's kind of the way he was in the Panthers. We all know this. He could go in the backfield. He and Amir Smith-Marset could be running jet sweeps all over the place. He is great with the ball in his hands. I think it'd be kind of nice. And then he's had a couple years in the league under his belt. And again, in terms of his physical stature, he's a bit different. He's 5'11", 195, but I think he's just built a little different. I think he's also that home run hitter as well. I think he can be had. I think he can be had on the Panthers on a good amount of money. But yeah, so right now, who we got? I like Hollywood Brown. I like Curtis Samuel. I like Gabe Davis. T. Higgins. Now, that's the guy. Is he number one wide receiver material? Absolutely. Why do I say this? Solomon Wilcox, who was a former Bengal. He was on Lockdown Panthers with our guy, Julian Council. And he talked about T. Higgins, who's on the same team as Jamar Chase. So Jamar Chase is like the face of the wide receiver position. You can argue that in the NFL. And T. Higgins, the way he is on the practice field is the way he is on game day. Just always challenging, always wants to get better, challenging DBs, lining them up, shooting them down. That's what he is. He's a dog. Damn, I got to take a shot. That is the one thing I'll say about T. Higgins over all these guys. T. Higgins just plays that style that Dan Morgan wants, something that I don't think Curtis Samuel really does right now. I don't think Marquise Brown is that guy. I think Gabe Davis could be that guy because he does that in big games. Like he has that attitude in big games for sure. He does not choke. That is for sure. But T. Higgins, from what I'm hearing from the guys that see him every single day with the Bengals, that is who he is on the practice field. That is who he is on the field. I'm assuming he's that way with taking care of his body in the film room. If that's the kind of guy that it's kind of like in the draft, you have conviction, you pound the table for him. That's what Dan Morgan wants. That's what Dave Canales wants. They want him to be that leader. Give him that money. 6'4", 219. I'd rather pay the money to someone like that who is still young. He's 25, entering his prime, still young. And you just, instead of getting a Mitchell, a Xavier Worthy out of Texas, a Troy Franklin, I would rather pay the known guy. And then you build around him. Like you can have a T. Higgins as your true number one, prototypical number one, 6'4", 219, blazing speed. He's finally getting a guy from Clemson on the team. And then you got Jonathan Mingo, who could be the big body wide receiver, big body slot wide receiver. And then you got Amir Smith-Marset, who is your speed, again, jet sweep dude, screen guy. And then there's less pressure to maybe do a double down or a trade down to double down on wide receivers or anything like that with the 33rd overall pick. Maybe you go interior offensive lineman. You do something like that with the 33rd pick, and then later on, you can still get some like a Malachi Corley guy out of Western Kentucky in the 4th round, who's an angry player as well. We've seen that in the Senior Bowl. I see that as a pretty good wide receiver core. However, it's up to the Bengals what they want to do. Are they going to tag T. Higgins? Are they keep him on the team? Or if they don't see a long-term deal happening, why keep tagging this guy and paying him an exorbitant amount of money where you can get something out of him? Maybe they do a tag and trade. And if that's the case, do you let go of your 2nd-round pick this year to get a known commodity in T. Higgins? I think it's worth it. Just for some reason, just to add to our pain, I could see him ending up with the Texans. That's just me. I could just see it. I don't know why. I feel it. I feel it. They got a lot of picks from the Deshaun Watson stuff. I could totally see them sending him to Cincinnati because they need some cheap talent on that team right now because they pay Joe Burrow. They're going to have to pay Jamar Chase. They're probably going to lose Tyler Boyd. If they're going to lose T. Higgins as well, may as well get a lot of picks, which the Houston Texans have, to build in a wide receiver rich draft. So I can see it. I can see it happening. Let me know on your thoughts. What free agent wide receiver do you want on the Carolina Panthers? Let me know in the comments below. See you guys soon.